Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now kicking off Nick Jaladian with Nickelodeon movie reviews. Let's start with Nickelodeon's very first feature film, Harriet the Spy. So, I've talked a little bit about this movie in the past. I remember I put this on my top 11 nostalgia critic reviews I wanted to see. And yeah, I would like to see Nostalgia Critic really review this movie. I really just know there's a lot of things that he can tackle with this, and a lot of jokes he can make in this movie. And yeah, as far as how I actually feel about the movie myself, I mean, I watched it a lot as a kid, and I mean, I liked it just fine. Yeah, and now years later, like looking at this movie again, while I still do think it is like an it is a decent film, I'd say. Yeah, I still, but I wouldn't really say like it is like one of the greatest movies of all time. I probably wouldn't even place this in my top 100 favorite movies. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it is a kids' film, so I mean, there's not really like that much to complain about that kids really can't enjoy about it because I mean, yeah, for a kids' film, I mean, it is just like a harmless, cute gem, really. I mean, there's nothing really like that offensive about it but I mean, it really doesn't have, I think, anything to really offer for adults. But yeah, as a kids movie, I think it does do its job. Yeah, this isn't like the kind of spy movie that you would typically you really think of, or something like the James Bond movies, or even like if you're a kid, if and like if like you think of Spy Kids, yeah, this really isn't like the type of spy movie that you really would think of because I mean, there's not really like anything like any like chase scenes or fight scenes or anything like that like you would see in like an adult spy movie. Yeah, there's none of that. I mean, it's just kind of like just Harriet just actually like spying on people. I mean, it's not like she's trying to chase somebody down or something. I mean, it's just she's like really spying on people and just taking notes of what she's seeing. So yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a different spy movie than the type that people would really think of. This was original. This was actually based off a book by Louise Fitzhugh. Yeah, and before all of you like start saying, "Oh, you said that the movie has to be originated from Nickelodeon and can't be based off of any show, shows, or it can't be like from other shows that Nickelodeon didn't make or nothing. It wasn't like Nickelodeon originally from Nickelodeon." Yeah, but yeah, I said that no like movie that was like made from another company or like a TV show from another company and Nickelodeon made it or stuff that had already had its own movie before this. Like Charlotte said, yeah, there was no actual movie made before for this. I mean, it was just a book before, so yeah, I really did consider this movie really eligible for these reviews. And plus, as I said, this was Nickelodeon's first feature film, so how could I really not include this in these reviews? It was and as I said, I mean, there's nothing like really like that really offensive in it. I mean, it's just like a harmless kids movie, and yeah. Like there's like a lot of stuff people can really joke about it now, like has Michelle Trachtenberg and like what's happened with her now over the years. And of course Rosie O'Donnell, a lot of jokes people can make about her now with this movie. Yeah, and yeah, there's that, but yeah, for like kids, they really wouldn't be bothered, especially if they were like watch this when it was actually back at the time it was released. I mean, yeah, nothing really wrong with it back then, and yeah, and really as a film, I mean, it's nothing like that offensive. I mean, like I said, nothing really like to recommend for adults to watch this movie. But if you have kids, this isn't like a bad thing to put on for them. I mean, I think that they would enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed it when I was a kid, and yeah, even now, I still think it is a decent movie. Yeah, so yeah, I would probably maybe give this movie. 2.5 stars out of 4. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of just like, yeah, you would say like this movie, yeah, it does kind of like have a lot of old like kid movie, like with kids at school. Like it just has a lot of cliches like this where you have like somebody that the kids don't like and who's kind of like not really a bully, but just kind of like some brat. And then you have like cliches with everybody turning against the main character in the school. And yeah, you have like the person going away and then eventually come back, and yeah, it just has a lot of cliches in that. I could kind of see how people really wouldn't be a fan of this movie, but yeah, yeah. While it does still like have a lot of cliches that have really been used several times in the past, it doesn't really like make it necessarily a horrible movie because yeah, well, it isn't really that horrible. Like it has some like enjoyment to it, and it does have some laughs in it. Yeah, and yeah, like I've said before, I mean probably the most obvious thing about this, and I can't like avoid it. Like I said before, I mean a lot of like parts in this movie where there's like people barefoot. I mean, yeah, I don't know if like that's just from the director having a foot fetish or something, but yeah, even when I was a kid, I could like always notice that there were times when several times in this movie where people go barefoot, and yeah, and yeah, I even like found a video on YouTube of like just a montage of every barefoot scene in this movie. I mean, yeah, that's just yeah. I mean, a lot of people really did tell that there was a lot of barefoot scenes in this. And yeah, there's like yeah, people can probably make some comments about them, like some kind of Quentin Tarantino comments or something like that, because we know about him. Yeah. And yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, like I've said, I mean, there's nothing like really like that great about it, and it doesn't really like stand out as really like a masterpiece or anything. But as I said before, as a kids' film, I think it does do its job, and you know, if you have kids, I do think that they can just watch this if they ever have some free time. So yeah, it is just kind of a yeah, like I said before, it's just kind of like a harmless, cute jump for kids. Okay, so yeah, let me just get right into it. So as the movie opens up with the opening credits, so you kind of like have a montage of like a magnifying glass and just like a lot of other like spy equipment. And shown throughout the opening credits, we see like magnifying glass, flashlight, binoculars, yeah, just stuff like that. And then it cuts to Harriet actually like spying around in the neighborhood. And she has her own private notebook writing down notes of everything that she sees. And she said that really that's why she is a spy, just to practice her writing skills. And as she's spying around, she sees that there's a guy that actually stole an old woman's wallet, and then the guy gets caught by the old woman, and he tries running off, but then he then gets cornered after like he sees her and tries to avoid her and jumps over her, but then he falls into a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And then one day at the school, we have Harriet and her best friends, Janie and Sport, or like applying the secret tattoos on their feet. Yeah. And Harriet is just like writing about some of her other classmates. Yeah, she talked about like kind of like the bratty rich girl Marion Hawthorne and her like second in command Rachel, and she talks about her other classmates like Pinky Whitehead, Carrie Andrews, Laura Peters, the boy with the purple socks, Beth Ellen. Yeah, she just was like making some comments about them. And yeah, they're kind of like sort of offensive comments. Yeah, and then that they get to class president and voting where it's between Harriet and Marion. And the teacher, Miss Ilson, just saying what the duties of the class president would be. And it turned out that Marion got voted for president. And it later on showed Harriet then just on her spy route. And yeah, like I said before, just like she doesn't have any actual weapons, like any guns or anything. Of course, they're not going to have that in a kids' film, let alone like a Nickelodeon movie. But yeah, she just has like the stuff I mentioned before, kind of like just binoculars and flashlight and like mirrors, compasses, and of course like her private notebook. Yeah, and yeah, it shows her like on her spy route, and one of her regular stops is spying on this guy, Harrison Withers, who like has a whole bunch of cats, and she explains that the health department is actually like gunning after him for his cats. But he has a system where if he sees someone with a hat that he won't answer the door. Then later on, Harriet's nanny, who she calls Gully, takes Harriet, Sport, and Janie to like some kind of garden or something with that is run by one of Gully's friends. Yeah. Yeah, and then, yeah, they just spend some time over there. Yeah, it's kind of just a waste of time. Then later that night, like, Goalie told Harriet that she will never actually, like, totally leave Harriet altogether, but she does tell Harriet that one day she will be old enough to take care of herself and Goalie will be gone and she won't look after her anymore. Yeah. Then the next day, it shows Harriet on another one of her regular spy places on her route, and she's in this grocery store, and as she's looking through one of the back windows, she sees what she suspects is a guy like stealing some vegetables. And yeah, the family that runs the store or like just always hanging around. The son is like wanting to like borrow their delivery truck for his date, and you know he's just like bickering over with his parents over it and stuff. Then one night, when Harriet's parents were out for the night, Harriet and Goalie had the night in, and then turned out that Goalie invited a friend of hers over, which turned out being the same guy Harriet saw with the vegetables before. And at first she was just kind of like toying around with him. And then, then he just was like goofing off with her, and he was just telling Harriet his story about why he's actually where he is today. And then it turned out Goalie accidentally like burnt the dinner. Then the three of them decided to go out for dinner and see a movie. And they ended up seeing the 1930s movie Mata Hari. Is that how it's said? Yeah. Yeah, as they were leaving that movie theater, like there was just some weird thing with Harriet like doing some kind of sword fight or something with the guy. Yeah. And then once they arrived back home, well, it turned out that Harriet's parents arrived sooner than expected, and then Harriet's mother, or like just unleashed on Goalie for keeping Harriet out, and then she ended up firing her. And as the father was trying to just tell that she's maybe jumping to conclusions, Goalie was just saying that she agrees that it is time for her to go, and she was just saying that she actually was planning on leaving, since she did feel that Harriet was old enough to take care of herself now. Then, as Goalie was getting ready to leave, she was just talking with Harriet, just telling her that she shouldn't give up on love of being a spy, even just because that Goalie will no longer be with her, and that Goalie will actually be the first one to get her autographed copy of Harriet's first novel that she writes in the future. Yeah. And after Goalie was gone, and like Harriet was saying that everything like really did feel the same, but she was saying that she just like had some empty hole inside of her that she didn't have before. And on her spy route, she also like saw some changes. Because, yeah, Harrison Withers finally got nailed and his cats were taken away. Then she also saw that the son of the store owners ended up wrecking the truck. Like, yeah. And then the family and other employees were just, like, getting all on his case about it. Then it showed, like, Sport buying some groceries, but it also showed that he was short on money. And Harriet walked in and she told Sport that she saw him drop another dollar outside, which was like later on revealed that Harriet was just pretending to help Sport pay for it. Then in class one day, Miss Ellison was talking to the students about their holiday pageant that would be coming up, and she was asking for ideas. And then Marion then made the suggestion of a holiday feast, since there would be parts for everyone available. And nobody else in the class really liked it. Then Harriet, Janie, and Sport then came up with a plan to set off a stink bomb in the auditorium the night of the play. And after, like, Janie's mom came into her bedroom and she, like, saw that Janie was using one of her bras for one of her experiments, Harriet was just saying that some of Janie's experiments creep her out, and she wonders if Janie will actually grow up to be a whole nutcase. Then at Sport's house, Harriet then just made this huge thing for her to, like, be able to see up to the, like, second floor of the house out of, like, a dresser, a trash can, some chests, and yeah, some other things. Yeah, and she was just spying on Sport, seeing that he was goofing around with his dad. But then, like, one of the legs of the dresser ended up breaking and her thing just ended up falling down. But Sport was able to pull Harriet back into the house. And as Sport was starting to clean the house and he had like a maid skirt on, Harriet ended up taking a picture of Sport, which would later kind of come back to bite him in the ass, but I'll get to that later. Then Harriet was trying to spy on another woman in her house, Atha K. Plumber, who was played by Eartha Kitt. And she tried to spy on her from her dumbwaiter after, like, sneaking into her house, but Harriet ended up getting caught. Then Harriet just felt that she was a terrible spy, since a good spy never did get caught. Then the next day, Harriet then decided to go play in the park with her friends, and as they were, like, playing tag, and Harriet got her notebook knocked out of her hand, and then Marion found it, and then she started reading off all of Harriet's notes, including, like, all of the comments that she made about her classmates, and it ended up, like, turning Janie and Sport against her, too. So, yeah. And then it just showed, like, absolutely everybody in the class was avoiding Harriet. And then there was a note being passed around the class of it saying that Harriet smells, yeah. And then later on, Marion told Harriet that they actually have a plan to get her. And then Harriet sees that the kids are forming a club for catching spies. And it just shows, like, the catchers are all over Harriet's spy route. Just end up just giving away where she is, yeah. And then Harriet ended up, like, running into a police officer, and then, yeah, her parents eventually end up talking to her about it, and they also find out that Harriet really hasn't done any schoolwork in days, so they just ask her to stop with her notebook for a while, and they end up taking it away. And Miss Elson also ends up, like, searching Harriet for her notebook, including, like, frisking her down. And during, like, art in the class, it's like Harriet gets paint accidentally spilled on her, and then all the kids team up to wipe it up, but they're obviously, of course, just smearing it around her. And then Marion also ended up pouring some more paint on Harriet. And then Harriet just ended up slapping Marion in the face and just taking off. I remember as a kid at this point, this was like when I was actually really like feeling sorry for Harriet. I mean, she was just getting treated so terribly, and it was actually making me feel really sorry for her. Yeah, and then yeah, Harriet then just stormed home. Yeah, and then she decided just to exact revenge on her classmates again, and she just did a bunch of things to them, like she cut off a chunk of Laura Peter's hair, and she also like embarrassed not Janie, Carrie by just like putting her bra on a flagpole, and she ruined like Janie's and Pinky's projects. And then, like in the bathroom, Harriet yelled out loud that the stories that Marion writes about her father taking her horseback riding are just lies, and she made them up. That Marion puts in the paper. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, Harriet just said that her father hasn't seen her in 3 years because he doesn't love her. And then Harriet also like took that picture she had of Spore cleaning the house and just made some flyers out of it to show what he does at home. And then Harriet's parents end up getting calls from all her classmates' parents telling them what's actually going on and what the kids are actually doing. Like Marianne just continues to cry and Laura just locks herself in the bathroom not coming out. And her parents end up taking her to a psychologist for her to be evaluated, and yet the psychologist assures the parents that Harriet's just fine. Then, yeah, the parents then give Harriet her notebook back, and then the next day, hey, Goalie ends up paying a surprise visit to Harriet, and the Goalie told Harriet what she has to do to fix her problems, and she told Harriet that she needs to apologize and lie, and she explained that a lie that would really make people feel better isn't really wrong, and that can actually be a really big help. And she also suggested to Harriet that she should consider writing other things other than notes. Then Harriet went to apologize to Sport and Janie about what she wrote about them, and it appeared that Janie and Sport were just rejecting Harriet at first. Yeah, they didn't even acknowledge her apologies, but it then shows like Janie and Sport are just tired of the way they're being treated in the Catcher's Club, and they just end up bailing on them. And then one morning in the classroom, Harriet then makes a suggestion about how the president automatically being appointed editor of the school paper or wasn't really being done fairly, and she feels everybody should get treated a fair chance. And of course, Marion was against it, and Miss Elson asked if anybody had anything to say about it, and nobody spoke up at first. But then the boy with the purple socks spoke up and was just basically saying he supports Harriet's idea. And then Sport and Janie also ended up agreeing, and so yeah, Harriet then got voted it in as editor of the paper, and then Harriet then and wrote an article for the paper, and she was just explaining how things can actually get better that go wrong. Like it showed like her on her spy route, she saw that the the guy that she thought was stealing veggies really wasn't, and she was just seeing that he was actually giving the veggies to kids. It was funny. Like Harriet like put her head in closer to get a better look, and she actually ended up sticking it through some bars of the window, and then like she couldn't pull her head out at first, and she got stuck. And it also showed that Harrison Withers still had another cat. Yeah. And then she just started to talk about their school pageant and the feast. And yeah, she was saying that it got a mixed reaction, how some people liked it and others really didn't. Yeah. And she was also like making a retraction in the paper to just apologize for all the comments she left in her notebook to her classmates. Yeah. And it just showed like Harriet Sport and Janie like just reuniting with each other and bonding once again. And then the movie just ended with them in their pageant just dancing off to the James Brown song "Get Up Off of That Thing," and then it just showed the stink bomb that Harriet, Janie, and Sport set up being fired off, and then it just cleared up the auditorium, and yeah, that's how it ended. So yeah, 2.5 stars out of 4. Like I said, I mean it's really no masterpiece material, and yeah, it's really like nothing like really for adults to really watch. I'd say like there's probably nothing to recommend to adults about it, but like I said, it I think as far as a kids movie, I think it does do its job just fine. I mean, yeah, it keeps kids entertained, and yeah, it's got some laughs in here, and yeah, it is, I'd say, a decent movie. Alright, so yeah, that does it for my review of Harriet the Spy. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and stay tuned for more reviews throughout the month for Nick Jaladian. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review of Harriet the Spy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.